Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Coach Action Jackson, and I'm here with another episode of Client Success Stories. This time I'm joined by Jessica. Jessica is my first client ever from Alaska, which is kind of interesting. She's got snow all around her right now, but more importantly, she just got inducted into the Action Jackson Fitness Hall of Fame because she lost 10 pounds, couple of body fat percentage points, 2 inches off of her waist, but more importantly, she went from no pack to 6-pack, unbelievable abs in a very short period of time. Jessica, your results were unbelievable, fantastic, and awesome. I appreciate you. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Action Jackson, I appreciate it. No, it's been an absolute blast. The 4 months just blew by before I even knew it was over.
Why don't you tell me and walk me back a little bit? So I gave a high level, some of the results and the successes that you've had, and it's been unbelievable. Your photos, by the way, when you shared that 6-pack photo in the group and on the timeline, I mean, unbelievable. People were just stopped in their tracks. It was so good. But why don't you tell me, where were you at before and kind of why did you want to join?
So I've been using Tonal for about 2 years or so. And even before that, I was a big gym buff. I like to work out. I have access to several gyms, through the military. So I was always at the gym. But I just wasn't quite seeing the successes that I wanted. I was in shape. My cardio was really good out in Alaska. I'm, out in the mountains all the time and out hiking. So I had the level of fitness that I needed to do the things that I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite seeing the results that I wanted to see. So I tried a couple of nutritionists and stuff, and I just hadn't seen the best results. I just had, I looked strong and fit, but I didn't have any definition. I didn't have any growth or development. My measurements weren't changing. Nothing was changing. And I thought what I wanted was to gain a bunch of weight. I was like, well, put on weight. The way I work out, it'll just be muscle. And so that was kind of my mindset when I came to you. And I said, oh, I just want to gain weight. And we were just talking about, you told me that, most of my clients usually lose about, 10 to 18 pounds in the first phase. I was like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to lose any weight. Now I'm 125 pounds right now. I have nothing to lose. I'm 5'3", 125 pounds, and already in shape. And I think by the end of phase 1, I think I had dropped down about 8 or 9 pounds to a weight that I hadn't seen since high school, which, you could look at the scale and be like, oh, that's a weird low weight. I guess it's 114, 115 pounds. Felt amazing. I was instantly seeing changes in definition. My muscles were growing. It was just a complete night and day difference just in that first phase or so. So I knew right then that I'd made the right choice in coming to you.
Wow, that's incredible, especially to get that kind of rapid results in such a short period of time. So what was different, I guess, from working with the nutritionist or the things that you did previously that led to you getting those great results?
Well, so I think from the nutritionist standpoint, it was very much, hey, you need to have 2,000 calories a day or 2,200 calories a day to bulk. And again, I'm 5'3", 33 years old, and I have a sedentary job as a pilot, right? I just sit all day. I'm not doing manual labor. So I think 2,200 calories, that's a lot of calories. Obviously, I'm going to gain weight. And I did. I think I went up to, in about 6 or 7 months, I went up to about 129, 130 pounds. But I wasn't seeing, I looked the same. I still looked slim, but I didn't have any muscle definition or anything. I don't know if that makes sense. So that was that's kind of what I saw from that nutritionist. So I knew that I wasn't quite seeing the results that I wanted, because what I wanted was I wanted to I didn't want to be, a bodybuilder or swimsuit model or anything like that. I just wanted to look good for me, and see changes in what I could lift and what I could do. And so that's what I wasn't seeing, those big changes.
Got it. Okay. So was it the combination of the multiple things that we did? What do you think made the difference for you this time?
So I think for this time, the workouts that you built were built for me. I'm sure you've got a template of here's kind of how I start people through phase 1 through 4 or whatever. But things that I struggled with and things that I knew that I wanted to work on most, you were able to build and develop for me. And that allowed me to see the changes and see the growth and work on the things that I wanted to work on that were more for my goals than just like a generic overview. Like, you know, you do the programs on Tonal, which are amazing, and I love the programs. I've done every single one of your programs. I've seen changes. I've seen increases in my total weight, my time under tension, all that stuff. But it's not curated to me, so it wasn't giving me the results that I wanted personally. So then that mixed with the fact that here's your diet plan, right? Which once again, you curated directly for me and what I need and for my size, my body type and my activity level, which like we talked about, I'm out in the mountains all the time, right? I'm constantly hiking. I'm 10, 15 miles multiple times a week. So we kind of talked about like, oh, maybe your calories are a little bit too low for right now. Maybe we need to boost up your calories here, or maybe you can eat whatever you want right here. And I think that really helped me. And it was an easy meal plan to follow. And, my last nutritionist was like, eat whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Go grab a scoop of peanut butter. Just meet your 2,200 calories. It doesn't matter what you eat. Whereas my meal plan is like, these vegetables are starchy vegetables. Limit those vegetables. These vegetables are like free vegetables. Eat as many of these as you want, not to exceed, however many 3 cups or whatever it was that you told me. Like, don't eat that much. Here are good meats that you could eat today. Maybe limit these types of meats or these types of proteins. Oh, these beans and stuff are good for this. So it was just so much more, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, but like so much more just like curated for me and for what I wanted to see.
Yeah, I think the big thing you're touching on there is the level of detail, right? The level of detail in terms of what you need to execute. I'm just going through this sheet I was creating for a consulting session I'm doing with a marketing kind of copywriter marketing guy later this month. And what I'm looking for from that person is detail, specificity on what I need to create, how I need to create it, what that should look like, what are the steps, what are the aspects of it, right? The more detail we have, the easier it is to execute. And when you're vague and foggy and you don't have so much detail and it's just, oh, well, do a diet, eat whatever, then oftentimes people are going to default to the easiest solution, which might not be the best solution. So giving an appropriate level of detail and specificity, I think, is massively important, but also making sure that people have a good framework and have some flexibility that they can work in. So you kind of need to have a little bit of both of those things to create something that's a little bit more sustainable. And I think where a lot of people go wrong, which is something you touched on, is really overestimating how many calories that they need. Everyone thinks that they're very active. Everyone thinks that they burn tons of calories and that their metabolism is really high or whatever, and they should be eating 2,000, 3,000 calories a day. But most people vastly overestimate how many calories they burn, and most people vastly underestimate how many calories they eat. And there's also error, an error margin on labels, all kinds of things baked in. So that's why usually we need to push the calories a little bit lower. But in some cases, like with you, when the person actually is very active, we might need to boost them up. And that's where, again, specificity comes into play. So all really good stuff. Now tell me, why were you surprised or so surprised at the results that you got when we kind of started? And like, what were you expecting?
To be honest, I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. I kind of went into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be just like the nutritionist. Like I knew that we were going to do this big deficit at the beginning, no carbs, this, that, and the other. And I kind of fully expected me to not handle that very well. And sure enough, I didn't. I was very hangry for the first couple of weeks. So there wasn't like a big expectation coming into it, except for the fact that I was like, oh, I'm not genetically able to get a 6-pack. I'm not genetically able to like build on a ton of muscle. And I remember talking to you about that, like, yeah, genetics wise, I know that I'm going to be limited. And you were like, no, like you need to change your mindset. Like, yeah, genetics do play a part in it, right? Like I'm not going to be this huge monster, Arnold Schwarzenegger type person, right? Okay, that's fine. But that's not to say that I can't see these amazing results that you can see in anybody who's like dedicated to discipline. But I was legitimately surprised when I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, holy crap, like I can count my abs. I can count a 6-pack. I was like, that's incredible. I did not come into this. I was like, I just wanted to build up my arms and get like good definition in my arms and maybe get like some good like definition in the abs. But I was like, I'm not going to get a 6-pack. I'm not even going to try for that. But like I looked in the mirror, like he goes phase 2 and I was like, I can count like without flexing, without doing anything, without, changing and seeing how I can get the light to reflect off my stomach. I was like, that's incredible. Like this was nothing that I had anticipated at all. I really did not think that I was going to be capable of that at all. And it happened within, like 5 weeks, I guess, by the time I got to phase 2, because phase 1's 4 weeks. And then, about beginning of phase 2.
Yeah. So a couple of things you said there. The first thing is we do move in the direction of a little bit more challenging and difficult in that first phase. The reason is we want to really break some barriers with people. We want to help people overcome a lot of mental limitations that they have. We also want to make sure people get some initial wins, results, and build momentum. And it's so important for people. And I think where people go wrong is they're so extreme and they're maybe over off in this direction. Maybe they're eating a little bit too much, not working out as much as they need to, and they're not doing things that they, ideally need to get to their goals. So they want to very slowly and subtly just marginally move in the direction that they need to, but then they don't see any changes. They don't see any results. So then they get frustrated and they kind of give up. Where I like to take people is a little bit more to the other side, be a little bit more extreme for a very short period of time. And then ultimately we can balance off and get somewhere into an equilibrium in the middle with a much more sustainable approach. But first we go from one side to the other side, then we fall in equilibrium. And I think that's a better approach because it gets people excited in the beginning, it builds momentum, and it shows you what you're capable of. And then once you kind of start to get to those limits, you're like, oh, wait, now this gets easier. Now it gets easier. Now it gets easier. And it's getting easier while you're getting stronger and better, which is a really good combination. And then the second part that you kind of mentioned there was the mindset limitations. I don't have good genetics. Oh, I can't do this. And even if that's true, it doesn't really serve you and it doesn't help you, right? It's not going to help you maximize your potential by going in saying, I have bad genetics and I'm not going to be able to get a 6-pack, right? It doesn't do you any good. So we might as well just remove that off the table and say, you know what? You're not trying to be in Mr. Olympia or Mrs. Olympia or a bodybuilding competition or anything. So really genetics are not a factor here because you're not trying to be in a category of one. You're not trying to be the best ever at this. You're trying to be your best at this. So genetics aside, let's see what we can do if we, have a good plan. We strategize, we put in hard work, we combine that with the strategy, get leverage, and then we also open up our mind and open up the possibility of doing some great things. Let's see what can happen. And for you, I would make the argument that you have great genetics because your abs are like perfectly symmetrical. You got the lines and the cuts and the shadows. And I mean, most of the other women in the program look at your 6-pack and they're like, holy cow, this is incredible. So in that regard, I would make the argument that I think you have great genetics and you certainly have an incredible work ethic. And I mean, you're absolutely one of the top tier performers in terms of your ability to just overcome obstacles, challenges, all the stuff with your job, the military stuff that you have going on. I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on and you're incredibly physically active. I mean, it's just a testament to you and really what an incredible, hardworking individual you are. And I'm just really blessed and grateful that we got the chance to work together. I appreciate you.
No, I really appreciate you too. Like the things that you've shown me and taught me just like about myself are just like I said, absolutely incredible. Where I came into it with this like, oh, I can't do this. Here's my goal. It's pretty low. And I think like we even after my first couple of check-ins, it was like, hey, your goals aren't really like you're kind of limiting yourself. Like why are you saying like, oh, I can't do this? Instead be like, this is what I would like to see if I can achieve versus, oh, I can't. And then what was the other? It was like, I was having a hard time with something. I was like, this sucks. This is really hard. And you're like, no, it's character building. And I'll tell you, I use that line all the time now when like, especially at work, if we're having a challenging day with the weather and, our flights are getting canceled or we're going missed, out of these like really tiny airports in the middle of Alaska. I'm like, no, it's not hard. It's just character building, guys. It's fine. It's character building. And it's just this total mind set shift that has just absolutely been incredible. And I feel like a more positive person after this program. Like I'm more physically fit and my mind's a little bit better. I like to always say flexibility is the key to air power. It's my like favorite propaganda saying. And now it's just character building.
That's fantastic. I got that. It's a little bit of Stoic philosophy, but do you know who Alex Honnold is? The rock climber?
I love Alex Honnold. He terrifies me. So
obviously the documentary with him where he does the solo is just incredible. but he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about a friend of his who got in a rock climbing accident, fell and broke his leg or something. Maybe it was his ankle, and he's stuck on the side, like the ledge of a cliff on the side of like this mountain. And he's like, and the guy can't go anywhere because he can't move. He has to wait for the rescue team and they have to get a helicopter out there. But it wasn't a life-threatening injury. So they were going to send the helicopter, but they were going to wait a little while until they got the resources together. So the guy had to sit there for several hours with this like broken leg on the side of a mountain. And he says, I like climbed over to the guy, gave him some water and stuff. And then I had to take off. He goes, but Joe Rogan was like, that has to have been horrible. I couldn't imagine like sitting there on the side of a mountain waiting for hours to get picked up from a helicopter. And Alex Honnold goes, it was character building for sure. Just throws that statement out there. And ever since that moment, it was one of those like almost obscure throwaway lines that literally changed me, because I heard that and I said, wow, character building. I said, that is certainly one way of thinking about it. And the more I got into like reading Stoic philosophy and stuff, the more I've really honed in on that. And I think it's just such, to your point, an important mind perspective or mind frame shift, because it takes it from this is impossible, this sucks, this is horrible, I hate this, to, yeah, it is hard, but I might as well change the way I think about it so that I could at least still get a positive or at least a relatively good outcome. Because if I'm going to go through this anyway, there's two ways I can go through it: miserable, or I can go through it at least thinking there's going to be some good on the other side of this, right? If you're going to go through the workout's going to be hard. Okay, we all know that. But saying it's going to be hard and getting all kind of frustrated about it and just spiraling or ruminating about it, that's not going to serve you and do any good. Might as well call it character building. And I think language is something that is often overlooked by people, but I think it's so important. And the older I get, the more important I feel like mindset and language is. So that's another reason why I think that's such an important point that you just made. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a game changer.
Any other things that you think are relevant, necessary, any obstacles that you might have kind of overcome that you want to share?
I'd say like, just do it, honestly. So phase one was so tough. You know, I went down to, I think I got 30 carbs on workout days and I got 0 carbs on non-workout days. And I remember like my poor husband in the evenings, I'd be like out of calories. I'd be out of everything. I couldn't have any carbs. And so dinner would be like 100 grams of chicken breast, which is like this much. And like as much spinach and kale as I could, stomach. And like a little bit of salad dressing, like a lemon vinaigrette salad dressing, like low calorie. And that's all I would get. And I like would just stare at my food and just like, I remember there was one night, like I was crying. I was like, I'm so hungry right now. It was so hard. He's sitting over there like eating potatoes and like a huge chunk of chicken and all this stuff. And I'm like crying almost. But I ate it and I was happy. I got my food in and I was fine. I was like, I'm just going to go to bed. The problem is like, I start my workday at 3 a.m. So it's like, I've got from 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. of trying to eat, 1,200 calories or whatever, my phase one calories were. And by the evenings, it's like, I'm just going to go to bed. This is too tough. But that was, it was a week. It was 1 week that was so hard for me to do. And I did it. And it was 1 week because by week 2, I felt fine. I was great. Like, okay, cool. Like, here's my 100 grams of chicken breast and my big plate of spinach and kale and a little bit of vinaigrette. And I'm full. I can't eat all of this. I feel full. I'm not hangry. I'm not angry about all of this. And I get hangry. It's a real bad character trait. It's bad news. But it was just like, I felt fine. And then, by week 3, like my calories go up, my carbs go up, everything goes up. And it's like, phew, there's almost too much food. I can't handle it. So I would just say like, it's hard. It's so hard at the beginning and it's going to be hard for everybody. If it's not hard for you, God bless you, because I can't imagine it not being difficult. But just get it done. It's 1 week for me is all it was before my body was like, okay, this is the new norm. We're fine. We can adapt to this. We're going to be okay. We've got the energy. You're not going to die. So just push through. Like, give it a week. And you know what? It's at the end of the week. It's like, this still is really hard. Give it another couple of days. Like, okay, maybe my body's different. Give me 2 more days. 2 more days. And, by the end of that, your calories are going to go up anyway. So you're done. You just kind of keep pushing. And that's actually, that kind of reminds me of something that I do a lot. I don't like to run. I hate running. I try every few years. I'm like, I want to be a runner, and I'm never a runner. I run 1.5 miles once a year when the Air Force tells me I have to. And that's about where it starts and ends. But when I'm prepping for this physical fitness test every year, I go run a couple of times, and it's always like, okay, I'm exhausted. I don't want to go. I'm like, I just have to get to that rock that's right up there, that rock. And then I get to that rock. I'm like, okay, just that tree branch that's on the ground right over there. Just keep going, just a little bit further, just the tree branch. Okay, I'm at the tree branch. Okay, well, I could go to that tree and just go a little bit further to the tree. And I do that. Oh my God, I'll do that for 2 miles. Just that rock. Just, 10 more steps. I can get to this tree branch. I can get to this like little milestones. And it's just enough dopamine to keep me going, essentially. And that's kind of what it reminded me of, is like, just where's my little milestone that I can get to?
You're bringing up a ton of great points. That's another really good one, which is chunking and breaking things down and just shortening the time frame, or maybe even the obstacle, to something that's a little bit more manageable, like a manageable bite that you can take and then move on to the next thing. And that helps build momentum and excitement, because you keep checking off these little wins, win after win after win after win. And that's how you get to great outcomes. How do you get a six-pack? Well, you do it one workout, one meal, one tracking thing, one glass of water at a time. You just keep checking the boxes off on these things over and over and over again. And by breaking them down and chunking, which is what you're explaining there, that's a really important way to keep going, because most people bite off more than they can chew. They think, oh my God, I got to do this forever. It's like, no, just do the next thing, and then do the next thing and the next thing. So that's a really important point. And the other thing is, you're right, the body adapts so fast. And anytime you're making a change, it's going to feel very uncomfortable at first. It's going to feel like you're a fish out of water. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. This is so hard. But the body adapts quickly, and we need to shock the body. And that kind of shock, getting outside your comfort zone, is exactly what people need in order to create the adaptation response in the body. And it's why they haven't seen the results previously. So it's a shock that we need to do, but the body adapts quickly. We adjust quickly, and it gets easier and easier as you get stronger. But how did you stick with it? How did you push yourself in the beginning when you felt like, oh my gosh, this is so hard? Like, what was the mindset? If there was a mantra you were saying to yourself, or like, was it your why was so strong? Like, this is the difference with people. Some people like you, they make it, they get through the mud to the higher ground. How did you do it?
I don't know if you're going to love this answer, but I literally think it's because I spent so much money to hire me as a coach, but I was like, I can't let this money go to waste. It's like when high school graduates finally go off to college, and it's like, oh, they start finally taking it seriously because now it's their money that's invested in this, instead of like the government telling them they have to go, right? Like, so now I was like, well, I just paid this man a lot, and I cannot waste that opportunity. Plus, like, on top of that, I super fangirl, right? Like I said, I've done all of your programs. Just like absolute fan of yours. I love doing your workout. And I was like, I cannot let Coach Jackson down. Like, I have to do this for Coach Jackson. It was, so there was a lot of it. Like, I have to, like, I can't just, wuss through this. Coach Jackson won't respect me. Like, it was this whole thing, this like, so probably not the healthiest or best mindset for it, but damn it, it worked.
I don't think it's an unhealthy mindset, right? I think we all have this sort of vision or this dream of having this like perfect, idealized, positive thing that we're working towards. And it's this great outcome to help the world or change, humanity, or do some kind of good in the world. And I think that's noble, and I think it's important. And I think that's part of why a lot of people do a lot of things. But I also think that there's a darker energy sometimes, or maybe some leverage that you need to get against yourself in order to get to the outcomes that you want. Like, when I was trying to get this business off the ground, I remember I got myself into massive credit card debt. I bought this coaching program, another program. I was $70,000 in debt, and I would sit here with my notepad. I would literally sit here with my notepad, and I would write down. I wrote down 100 reasons of why I absolutely needed to get my program off the ground in order to make my life better. And then I wrote 50 like horrible things that would happen if I didn't do it. And I would sit here and I would read through first the negative things. And I mean, it was dark and horrible and terrible stuff that would make me literally cry. I would be like, I'm going to lose she was my girlfriend at the time, my now wife. That relationship's going to go away. I'm going to have to move in with my parents, or I'm going to have to go back to the gym where I was training in person and get up and train people at 6 a.m. again. Everybody there is going to know I failed again for a third time, not even a second time, a third time, and have to coming back with my tail between my legs. I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to be broke. I'm never going to pay off this debt. Like just all this leverage against myself. And then I would read the positive stuff, why this is so important for me to do and all the amazing things. And that was the helping people and all that other good stuff. So I think you need something to run towards, but something to run away from. In the more leverage you can get against yourself, whether that's investing in a program, whether that's not wanting to let somebody down, having accountability and support, whatever works to get you to the outcomes, that's what you need to do. Anybody who's ever watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, he would make up stories to motivate himself, to drive, to play hard in games, because he just wasn't driven, because he already had so many championships and wins and records. So it's really whatever you need to do to get you to move forward.
It worked for me.
and that's a positive thing. And I think that's a really valid reason why a lot of people drive. It's not just, hey, maybe I want to be an example for my kids with a lot of people, or I want to be healthier. I want to live a long, healthy life or active life. But also, I also invested money into this program. I also invested in myself. I also want to make sure I don't let, coach down. I also don't want to let myself down. And the more leverage you can stack up against yourself, the better you're going to execute. And of course, the better results you're going to get. So I don't think that's a bad reason at all. Last year, I invested $40,000 in business coaching. And I could tell you, when I wrote the check for the $40,000, the next month, I had a pretty good month, because I was like, holy cow, I just wrote this massive check. I need to make up for this. Like, I got to get this ball rolling. So that kind of pressure, it works sometimes. So tell me, now that you're on kind of the other end, of course, the journey never ends, right? Behind one mountain is just more mountains. Get to the top of Mount Everest, it just keeps going. But now that you're kind of on the other side of the program, was it worth it? 100%,
100% worth it. Like I said, I went into this kind of with like low expectation of my ability, not your ability, of my ability. I was like, I'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. I've tried other nutritionists. I've tried tonal programs. Let's see what happens. The fact that I saw such intense and insane results so freaking quickly is just, absolutely mind-boggling still. It's been a couple of months and I'm still just like, holy, that's me. Like, I did this, with your help. I did this, right? And that's just absolutely incredible. So given the opportunity to go back in time, I would totally do this again. There's no way. And it was funny because I think either the day before I paid you or the day after I paid you, one of the two, my boiler went out. And I was like, okay, well, there's another $4,000 that I'm about to fork out. And it ended up being a little bit cheaper, thankfully. Then a week later, my fridge died. And I'm like, I should not have paid for this coaching thing. I was like, what am I doing? My house is falling apart around me all of a sudden. But, they were just character building. This character building. And it just kind of reinforced like, okay, well, I've already paid for this and my house is falling apart around me. I can't fix that. That's just going to happen. Like, I'm going to have to address that as it comes. But this is a sunk cost. I have to do this. And I have to give it my everything. I can't just like go into this 50%. I have to go into this 100%. And it's just totally worth it. 100% worth it. And if anybody's like on the fence about this, like, just do it. You're like, oh, I can build my own workouts, or I can Google how to do a diet plan. And I did that, right? Like, I Googled that. I Googled how to count macros. I've Googled what I should eat. I'm a Google expert. It's awesome. But I wasn't seeing the results. 3 weeks with you and I had a 6-pack. Like, there's just, you can't do this. Maybe you can, some people can do this on their own, but I was not one of those people.
You also had some extra motivation as well, which I want to congratulate you on and also mention, which is you got married at the very tail end of the program. I think last week of the program, you get married. Photos look amazing. You posted obviously in our community. It was great. I appreciate it, but you looked awesome. And that certainly had to have been a little bit there, right? As a driver as well.
That certainly helped. I was like, man, I want to show up to my wedding. And like the timing worked out perfect. Like, when you and I connected, it was 4 months before my wedding. The program is 4 months. I was like, well, but somebody, somebody's looking out, right? Like, Jessica, you need to do this. And now's the time to do it. Don't put it off. And our photographer just like constantly like, girl, your delts, like, look at your delts. Your shoulders are going crazy. Hey, we need to do this pose so we can accentuate like these biceps. Like, it was such a fun feeling. Like, it felt really cool that I was like, oh my gosh, like all of this hard work paid off because somebody's noticing. And it's, you know, on like the most important day of my life, like somebody's like noticing this hard work that I put into it. And my husband, like, such a rock. So especially during the first phase, when I was very hangry all the time. And he was just like, Jessica, you look great in this dress, and just very complimentary. And it felt really good. It was, I think I told you when we started that, like, you know, I'm in my 30s and I'm finally getting to that point where, like, you know, I don't care what people think. I'm gonna be confident. I'm gonna wear, you know, crop tops and stuff. Like, I didn't do this my whole life because I was so self-conscious and I didn't feel good in my body, right? And I was like, but I want to start doing this, and I want to feel damn good about it. And now I'm like, I'll wear whatever I want, like, and I feel great and I look great, and people are seeing that, and that's a really cool feeling for the first time in my life, you know.
Well, I just want to acknowledge you one last time. Again, the physical results, incredible. The 6-pack, the 10 pounds down, the body fat loss, the 2 inches, all fantastic. But more importantly, remember that you did do this. Yes, I was a guide. Yes, I helped, but I just gave you a little bit of strategy. You already had the hard work. You had to eat the food. You had to move the weights. You had to do all of that stuff. So you earned every little ounce of success. You earned the confidence, the energy. You earned those photos, those wedding photos, those incredible photos. You earned all of it. And I just want to say thank you for trusting me, for investing in yourself, for joining the program. And I cannot be, you know, more grateful and thankful enough that not only did we get to work together, but I feel like we got to, you know, create a bit of a friendship as well. And it's just been great getting to know you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach.